Am I the jerk for kicking our stepdaughter out of the home? Are we, my husband and I, the assholes for kicking out our oldest child, my stepdaughter, his biological daughter? My husband has always had full custody of his daughter. We got together when she was 17 months old, and her visitations with her biological mother were spotty at best and often non-existent. From a very young age, she exhibited signs of mental illness, for which we repeatedly sought help. Stealing from us turned into shoplifting. Lying evolved into pathological lying, even to teachers, counselors, therapists, friends, and friends' parents. Her behavior outside the home was stellar, but inside our home, she refused to follow rules, ignored boundaries, called us names, or refused to speak to us. She began running away whenever we tried to enforce rules or deliver consequences, such as taking away Wi-Fi access as punishment. She would just leave and not come home for days or weeks. She would bring and smoke drugs inside our home. Then, she began telling the school and her friends' and boyfriends' parents that we would withhold food and medication from her, which was not true. She threatened to call Child Protective Services, CPS, on us. Eventually, when she aged out of being able to use CPS against us for herself, she started threatening to call them on behalf of our oldest son. He has been diagnosed with ADHD and autism and is on medication for ADHD. She began claiming that we were just sedating him to make him easier to deal with and telling him not to take his medication. At that point, my husband asked her to leave. She was not put on the streets, as her friend's mother allowed her to stay there. We decided that living with her abusive nature was one thing, but allowing her to turn it on her siblings was another. It was a heartbreaking decision, but we felt it was necessary. So, are we the assholes? You did nothing wrong here. It seems like every effort was made to support the stepdaughter through her mental health struggles, but ultimately, the well-being of the younger kids had to come first. Her disruptive behavior was becoming too harmful, and it's clear she knows what she's doing by acting differently around others. Creating a healthier environment for the younger children is a priority, especially when the stepdaughter's actions have been intentionally hurtful. Am I the jerk for not helping my partner adopt, foster their siblings in bad foster care situations? 8 years ago, when I was 18 years old, I lost my mother and 2 of my 3 siblings in a car accident. My oldest sibling, who was then a 14-year-old male, was not in the car. For a while, my brother was in foster care, although it was a good situation. I worked hard to get him to live with me as soon as possible. We received substantial life insurance proceeds, and an even more substantial settlement because the accident was caused by a truck driver. We also sold my mother's home. With my half of the money, I bought a large home for my brother and me. The other half of the money is in a trust for my brother. A couple of years later, I got a casual partner pregnant. We ended up having identical twin boys. I was not interested in a romantic relationship, although I was excited to be a father. She convinced me to try and make the relationship work for the boys. I agreed to try. She was making little money and could not afford rent, so I let her, with my brother's permission, move into the house. She decided she wanted to stop working and stay home with the boys. I was initially against it, but after researching the benefits for children, I agreed. This is where I might be the one at fault. 3 years ago, 2 of my partner's siblings ended up in foster care due to unfortunate circumstances. The situation is quite bad from what I was told. My partner understandably wants to adopt or foster them, but given the living situation, she has no income and no ownership in the home, she cannot do it on her own. Either I would need to do it or we would need to get married so we could do it together. I absolutely refuse. I am willing to let the kids live here if she could somehow get approved on her own, but I am not willing to do what she is asking. This has been an ongoing argument, and she has called me the one at fault. She says I worked hard to get my brother out of a good foster family, while her siblings are experiencing a difficult situation and I will not help. I told her that I had a duty to my brother. While she has a duty to her siblings, I do not have a duty to them. Our mutual friends are divided on the issue, and since she knows my main account, I am here to get more perspectives. Am I the one at fault? It sounds like she really needs to focus on getting a job and finding another place to live. While it's understandable that she wants to help her siblings, she simply doesn't have the means to do so right now. She's relying on support from others, and making them responsible for her life problems isn't fair. It seems like the current arrangement is more like a pseudo-marriage, and without clear financial boundaries, it's just adding more confusion to an already complicated situation. Am I the jerk for telling my girlfriend I hate the surprise party she arranged? My girlfriend and I have been together for 2 years. She decided to enlist the help of my 2 close friends and housemates to throw me a surprise party for my 30th birthday at our house. She invited around 15 mutual friends and 10 of my friends. I have always maintained that I hate surprises and prefer to know things in advance. I have mild social anxiety and dislike having things kept from me. I enjoy having events in my calendar to look forward to, think about, plan, and imagine the details. I am the type of person who checks the menu weeks before going to a restaurant. My girlfriend loves surprises and did not believe that someone would not enjoy a nice surprise. When she teased the idea of surprising me, I was always clear that it was not something I wanted. Nonetheless, she went all out. We went go-karting. We had dinner at a great restaurant. My house was decorated extensively for the party, with cake, balloons, and confetti. My anxiety steadily built from the first activity to the last. Everyone knew the plan and the next location, except for me. I hated every bit of it. I had an internal conflict because I knew these were all objectively nice things, but I could not help that I was hating every second while pretending to my friends that I was having the best time. I did not want to be a killjoy and appear ungrateful. Throughout the day, I kept asking her to give me more details of the plans, but she did not want to spoil the surprise. It all came to a head when I realized we were heading back to our place for the party. It might sound silly, but my room was untidy, and the anxiety spike from knowing people would see it sent me over the edge. I said some unkind things to her and questioned whether she even knew me, expressing that I hated it all. I told her this in private and did not cause a scene in front of others. I tried to smooth things over afterward as I recognized I reacted out of frustration and anger, but she was understandably upset. She thinks I am ungrateful, rude, and diminished her efforts. I believe I was driven to this by a set of events I was clear I did not want. Am I the antagonist? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. Your girlfriend threw a party for herself, not for you, and completely ignored your wishes by putting you in a situation she knew would make you uncomfortable. It's pretty telling that she's now trying to play the victim and expects you to be grateful for something you explicitly said you didn't want. Her actions show a blatant disregard for your feelings and sound like a pattern you might want to address. Am I the jerk for not letting someone cut the line so they ended up separated from their group? My friend and I were visiting my boyfriend's home country with him. When we go to that country, my boyfriend is able to queue in one of the several faster immigration lines for citizens, while my friend and I have to join the singular visitors line, which moves much slower than all the others, taking nearly 5 minutes for each person to pass. We queued for nearly an hour to reach the front of the queue, and my boyfriend had already gotten through to the other side 40 minutes before us. As we reached close to the front, we noticed a lady in the citizens line filling out the visitor's entry form. She seemed to be queuing with another lady and that lady's child. They reached the front of their queue first, but proceeded to let several people pass them as she finished filling in the form. She eventually finished as my friend and I finally got to the front of our line, but she and her friend were told by the border agent that she should have joined the visitors line. The lady and the child went through, leaving the other lady to turn to my friend and me and ask us to let her go in front. I exchanged a look with my friend and also looked back at the long line behind us. All of us had been waiting significantly longer than she had since she had been in the fast-moving citizens line. She continued to say, "Please, I didn't realize I had to be in this line. I'm with those people," pointing to the lady and the child who had gone through. I told her, "I'm sorry, but we have all been queuing here for a really long time and this queue is much slower. We also have someone who has been waiting for us on the other side." Other people were looking at us with annoyed expressions, so I also said, "Sorry, I don't want the responsibility of all these other people being angry at us for letting you in front either. It's not just us who have to wait." She was understandably disappointed, though she said she understood and proceeded to move back down the line. I have no idea if she ended up at the very back or if someone else let her in front of them. I feel like I might be the person in the wrong because I could have done a good deed by just letting her in front of us so she could be with her group, especially since if she did end up at the back of the visitors line, she would have to wait another 40-60 minutes. But at the same time, letting her in front would mean everyone else who queued in the correct queue would have to wait even longer, which seems very unfair since she had waited much less than us by going in the citizens line. The signs are quite clear, and we usually double-check with the staff to make sure we're in the right line when we join it, so it does seem really silly for her to have gone in the wrong queue. Am I in the wrong for not letting her cut the line and join her group? Sorry, but no one wants the responsibility of dealing with a bunch of angry people just because someone cut in line. The best approach is to start at the back and politely ask each person if it's okay to move ahead. Sure, you might do a good deed for one person, but you'd be upsetting everyone else waiting. Ignoring the rules just because someone feels entitled doesn't make it right. Am I the jerk for telling my spouse that I think their sibling and spouse are bad parents for trying to make us watch their child 24/7 when we visit? Whenever I visit my in-laws, about 3 to 4 times per year, we stay at my brother-in-law's house because they had an extra bedroom and insist we stay with them. My brother-in-law and his wife expect almost constant babysitting because I am not working during these trips. They leave my niece with me and ask me to feed her, read a book with her, and ensure she does not watch TV. They disappear into their own worlds all day, with one going to work and the other working at home. I do not mind helping out for a few hours here and there, but being expected to watch her all day during the entire vacation, if I do not have plans outside the house, seems excessive. I find myself growing very resentful. I honestly do not understand what they do when I am not around, as they do not have a babysitter normally. Whenever I express that I am tired or try to get away for some rest, they comment later, in a joking way, that my husband and I should reconsider having children in the future since we get tired so easily. They suggest we should watch my niece for a longer period, such as weeks, before seriously considering having a child. These comments seem inappropriate to me because having a child is a lot of work, but just because I do not want to watch their child constantly does not mean they can say such rude things to me. I have complained to my husband a few times, but he seems to think this is normal and that this level of expectation for babysitting is also totally normal and part of the culture. They tried to have their other sibling, who lives in the same city, agree to schedule babysitting their child 1 to 2 weekends every month, and the sibling refused, leading to a small fight. Recently, I became so annoyed at their behavior over the past few trips, especially leaving their child with me and my husband when we have been feeling unwell, that I told my husband I do not like his brother. I think he and his wife are extremely self-centered and demanding people who are bad parents because they try to leave their child with other people. This started a big fight, as my husband feels close to his brother. Am I the one at fault? You are not responsible for this. Your in-laws are definitely taking advantage by expecting free childcare during your vacation. It might be time to start making plans outside the home when you visit, like exploring local attractions or spending time at a coffee shop. If all else fails, let your husband visit his family solo while you do something more enjoyable. Am I the jerk for not allowing my mother-in-law to stay at our place? We are a couple of newlyweds, both 26 years old, just trying to figure out life. We are doing well and are in love. We got married less than 6 months ago, and my parents paid for our dream wedding and are still supporting us. My mother-in-law constantly told us she would give us money, but she never did. I never asked for it and honestly didn't need it, thanks to my parents. However, it was annoying hearing the same story where she promised something we all knew she could never give us. She was the only one giving us a hard time while planning the wedding because she wanted to invite many people we barely knew. She didn't contribute financially but still wanted to have many people at our wedding, which made me angry, but I never told her or my husband to be respectful. She didn't seem happy the day we got married, not sure why, since we always had a good relationship, and she ended up inviting a lot of people. I was always respectful and even asked her opinion on some wedding details so she could feel like she was part of it. She lives in another state and every time she came to Texas, she stayed with her brother, who is single. Yesterday, we picked her up from the airport, and she told my husband she was expecting to stay with us. I had talked about this before, explaining to him that I don't feel comfortable with family members staying over at our house. They could visit but not sleep in our home, and that it was one of my boundaries, which he agreed to. She is playing the victim, saying her brother and she got into an argument a few months ago and they don't talk anymore. So now every time she comes over, she needs to stay with us. When we dropped her at her brother's, he was nice and kind to her. He always said she could stay with him and that he could also help her with any errands she needed. She never told my husband about the situation and never asked him or me if it was okay for her to stay with us. I understand she's my husband's mom, but I feel like she needs to understand that we do have boundaries, and she can't come and expect us to accommodate our schedules around her. I don't feel comfortable with anyone else staying because I work from home. I clean, cook, and do chores at my own pace, so I don't want to have someone telling me what I need to do. I'm not happy that she planned her whole trip expecting us to accommodate her without even asking us. We always thought she would stay with her brother as she always did before. She was never clingy to my husband when he was single, so I'm not sure why she wants to play that role now. In the end, she stayed with her brother, but I feel my husband is resentful now since he thinks I don't want his mother around just because I'm mean. Am I the bad person here? Establishing boundaries is crucial, and it's important for everyone to understand that these apply to all guests, not just one person. It was completely wrong for her to assume she could stay without discussing it first, and sticking to these boundaries as a couple will ultimately be beneficial. People may find it difficult to adjust initially, but they need to respect your space and decisions. Hopefully, setting these boundaries will encourage others to communicate and plan better in the future. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.